Both Final Fantasy XVI and Final Fantasy VII Remake are highly anticipated games, and they're both slated to come sometime in the near future. Where Final Fantasy XVI is expected to come sometime this year, Final Fantasy VII Remake is speculated to come sometime the next. In the case of Final Fantasy XVI, we have a pretty firm timeline of when we can expect the next update. However, for Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's been a big question of when we will receive the next major update. We knew it was coming sometime this year, but now we might know exactly when. And you're gonna want to hit the subscribe button if you want all Final Fantasy news the moment it happens. Recently, in a live stream for the first Soldier Final Fantasy VII, Remake director turned creative producer Tetsuya Nomura explicitly told us when we can expect the next Final Fantasy VII update. Next month, we will release information concerning the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII, meaning that some type of Final Fantasy VII update is coming next month. Now, in terms of timing, this is a bit weird, as we're also expected to get information sometime before the end of next month regarding Final Fantasy XVI, and it seems like we might be getting major information both on Remake 2 and Final Fantasy XVI roughly around the same time. As a fan, I absolutely love this, but as a content creator, I absolutely hate it. I am going to be working my absolute butt off to make content for both of these games, but you know what? I am going to have a great time doing it. It was heavily implied in the investor report that we're going to have a 35th anniversary event for Final Fantasy. It makes me wonder if this 25th anniversary update is going to be a separate event on its own. The even bigger question than that is, what are they going to show? It's easy to think that they will automatically reveal Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, and indeed I do expect us to get some sort of update regarding the game's development. But if I'm to be honest, what I actually think that this information update is going to be focused on is Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, a game that we recently found out is releasing sometime before September. It would literally only make sense to me if Ever Crisis is shown off next month. I also wouldn't be surprised if it shadow dropped shortly after that. But I think that Ever Crisis will also be accompanied by the reveal of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. I think if you show a trailer of Remake Part 2, and then you say Ever Crisis is available now, you'll basically be taking people's excitement for Part 2 and allowing them to turn that into an action by downloading Ever Crisis. Strategically speaking, this is probably going to be the best way for them to launch the game, as it would capitalize on all of the excitement, shooting their downloads through the roof. In terms of Part 2 being revealed, I don't exactly expect much. At the very least, I'm expecting just a logo, a name, and a short little narrated trailer. At the very most, I'm expecting a trailer that's somewhere between 1 and 2 minutes, shows a very teeny tiny amount of gameplay, just enough to whet your appetite, with a more information to come statement at the very end of the trailer. I also anticipate there is some sort of third project in the works, and it might be revealed next to Ever Crisis and Remake Part 2. Now, to be clear here, that's not based on any information. That is just literally what my gut is telling me based on the way this is all set up. But furthermore, it seems that they are attempting to do a sort of new compilation of Final Fantasy VII, with a brand new list of spin-off titles to accompany it. If that's the case, I doubt they are going to stop with the first Soldier in Ever Crisis. Not too long ago, there was a rumor that a Final Fantasy VII Netflix series could be in the works, a new animated series that would be canon to Final Fantasy VII Remake, though we never saw anything materialize of that. I'm willing to bet there is going to be some sort of watchable entertainment that's involved in this project. I mean, it can't all be mobile games, right? There's gotta be something other than mobile games, please. And if there will be an announcement for Remake 2, it is gonna be weird to start talking about the game when Final Fantasy XVI isn't out yet. Then again, they did this exact same thing with Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 and FF15, where Final Fantasy 15 was a year away from release when Remake Part 1 was revealed in 2015. So clearly they don't care too much about the spacing of these titles, or how hard Night Sky Prince specifically is going to have to work in order to cover all these games. But right now is an awesome time to be a Final Fantasy fan, and there is incredible stuff on the horizon. Shout out to patrons friend John Grob, and the rest of the Ultima community.
Promises we made so long.